So as you know, unfortunately, this was my first time to visit Egypt and to meet the social entrepreneurs, the Pioneers program. And it was thrilling. I really enjoyed the chance to meet 4 of them in Cairo and another one in Sinai. The diversity of them is fantastic, and yet I think they share certain qualities which actually are very important qualities to Synergos in general and to our concept of bridging leadership. In fact, I think I understand the importance and power of bridging leadership even more having met these particular social entrepreneurs and pioneers and understood where they're coming from. I talk a lot about the importance of listening, and I could see how each of the programs that we saw, the people that we talked with, had, in order to design the program they were running, they had to have listened carefully to what the needs of the people whose problems they were trying to solve were. And secondly, I found among them, the 5 altogether, a combination of self-confidence and knowing they were on the right track, but at the same time humility, not having big egos or acting as though they individually had done everything. They were very aware of the power of collaboration, which is another important thing about bridging leadership. And finally, they were all addressing systemic problems, not little Band-Aid problems. And clearly, whether it was from a very grassroots approach or in 2 cases, 3 cases really, whether it will have national implications, they were very systemically oriented. So those are 3 of the major aspects of bridging leadership, and it was so exciting and wonderful to see that in the individuals who we met. So the other aspect that impressed me a lot was the concept of addressing many more people through having the volunteer program, and the way they were prepared, first of all, to interact with each other, but also to go through a training program in which they really came to see each other as having possibilities of being leaders in the future. And leaders not in the traditional power over sense, but really understanding also the importance of collaboration, of consultation, and of inclusion. So I know that the program goes beyond Egypt to other countries of the MENA region, and I'm sure that these volunteers will have an impact on each of the countries included. So when I think of any society or any community, I think of it as a tapestry, so that every cross stitch is an opportunity for bridging. And the more complicated the tapestry, the more diverse the society, the greater the need for bridging across divides at all levels and in all sectors of society. So I believe that the strength of Synergos' diverse networks is actually its social capital. It's its most important feature, because we have people from many countries around the world. We have people from civil society leaders and social entrepreneurs. And we have the Global Philanthropist Circle, which is a network of philanthropic families from around the world. And our intention now, and to some extent has already been, is to connect those members of the different networks around their common interests or their common geographies, so that you already have part of each social fabric of each country or each society covered by bridging leaders who are now interacting with each other to make the weave tighter and stronger. Synergos is 35 years old, and we've been through many phases. And I feel as though Our successes and failures over that time have put us in a good position to see where we should be heading now. And that is that in a very divided world, there is much more of a need than even 20 or 30 years ago for people who are going to bridge divides and people who have the leadership qualities in all parts of society to do that bridging across divides. So we have decided to focus on the capacity building of bridging leadership in all of our networks and even beyond, and researching and understanding what are the qualities, and then bringing people together in collaborative action around solving problems that are too complicated to be solved by any one person alone. And by bringing together these bridging leaders and others, we feel we're going to have a much greater impact going forward. I heard the fascinating story of Waleed, who is himself a pharmacist, who became aware that many people couldn't afford prescription drugs, and because they came in too big packets or they were too expensive. And so he thought up an ingenious way of accessing for about 3,000 families every month pills where people at home, or sometimes pharmaceuticals or other pharmacies, had not used all the pills they had. And so they repackaged them and made them available in smaller quantities and at either low cost for those who could afford to donate something, or no cost for people who actually couldn't do it. So it was a way of bringing together the need of people for medicines, the willingness of people who had extra medicines, and institutions as well, and creating a social enterprise whereby the need could be met by the repackaging and the redistribution. On a completely different subject, Ahmed is an amazing social entrepreneur in the arts and culture field. He is a director himself, and I believe also a playwright, and has considerable success himself. But he recognized a gap a long time ago, which was that there was almost no rehearsal space for artists who are just beginning, or who don't have a lot of money, or who aren't famous yet. So he, in several different ways, accessed rehearsal space and eventually actual production space for all kinds of artists, particularly young ones, and then bridged that local possibility to people around the world, as he himself is already well known in many other countries. But he's bringing artists from other countries to give performances so that the Egyptian public has a much broader access to the kinds of wonderful theater and dance and choreography that should be available to the public. I'll say something about the very passionate Rania, who has been working largely with women artisans to help bridge between the kinds of goods, artisan products that people want to buy, and the wonderful talent and skills of local producers, but who may not know what is marketable elsewhere. And I believe also to ensure that the prices that these producers get is a good one. So this is again working on the important issue of women, working with crafts, but also working with the market to ensure that there's a connection between what the women are producing and what people are willing to pay good price for. And then I'll mention Dr. Ayman, who is a physician, but realized that while supposedly some large percentage of the Egyptian population has insurance, many of them either don't know about it or don't know how to access it. And therefore, they either aren't able to afford good health care because they don't know about the insurance, or don't have it. So he's got an online service. It's a very clever thing that links people to the health insurance system, both private and public, so that there can be greater accessibility. And where there are problems, he then lobbies the hospitals or the pharmaceuticals or the insurance companies to ensure that it becomes easier for people to access reasonable insurance. So then we flew to the Sinai and went to a town called Nueva, where Magid has developed a program which is called Habiba, which covers so many different aspects. It, first of all, is his own both organic and regenerative farm, and he's passionate about research, about creating healthy soil, figuring out which plants will grow in the desert, which seeds and which types of plants that also could be nourishing to the local Bedouin population. And he has built a strong trust and connection with two Bedouin tribes who are there in Nueva, so that he simply does his own gardening, but he employs people to help. And also he inspires curiosity. So more and more of the 75 families, he's gotten families wanting to start their own agricultural production. And he did another very innovative thing, which is he brought a particular kind of date palm to Sinai and began helping the Bedouin farmers to purchase each 5 date trees on their own land, which has now improved the production of dates, but also their other little gardens are producing food for the family. And as an accompanying program, he has both a lodge where people, volunteers, tourists, and scientists can come and stay and interact with his programs, and also a learning area right in the gardens where children come after school to play. And he's completely integrated his family with the Bedouin population so that there's real trust, which is a fundamental aspect as far as Synergos is concerned, in the ability to bring people together and then solve critical problems collaboratively. Having seen finally this program of social entrepreneurs in the MENA region, it has inspired me even more to hope that the different aspects of Synergos' networks, the MENA fellows, the senior fellows, civil society leaders, and the Global Philanthropist Circle can work more closely together, and that we work together not only to understand and collaborate with each other, but to create initiatives, to create action across the different areas where people are involved in the different geographies, so that the impact of bridging leadership and of collaboration will be felt much more strongly, and more people will want to become bridging leaders and approach the solving of problems in the world that way.